Can you explain or break down what exactly is in this stimulus and why it's so bad?
Well, it is so bad because the wells of the Senate controlled by Republicans. And whenever you have a majority whose focus is really shielding corporations, this is the type of relief that is left over for the actual people that engine and power those corporations.
Man, I'm just working, man.
I know what my audience like. I did some independent films with Master P. A lot of those movies did really well.
I'm ambitious, I'm a hustler. I have my own lane.
That's the thing about comedy. You wake up every day, you don't know if you're funny that day.
You know, the stimulus package. And you guys had questions, and I was like, well, let's go get some answers. Let's go figure out what it is we need to know. Are we getting duped? Are they giving out $600 and just a handful of scratch-offs and telling us to fend for ourselves? What is it? Let's get the breakdown. So I reached out to a political junkie, if you will. Please welcome to the show. Let's go live. Everybody make some noise for Erica Savage Wilson. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you as well. And good day to the Lamont King audience as well. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for coming on for at such late notice. Now we like to with newcomers to the show, we like to slow walk it a little bit. So if you got some time, if you could, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up your website. Give us a little bit of background on yourself, where you came from, what you're into, and what makes you so knowledgeable about politics.
Sure. So I'm Erica Savage Wilson. I work in politics. I'm a director at a political consulting and data management firm. I'm also a former federal employee, a financial analyst for nearly a decade. But I come into this space having worked in politics for about 15 years. I worked local campaigns and state campaigns and worked a congressional campaign. So I understand organizing, footwork, and actually knocking on doors and asking people for votes. I've been in the DC area now for about 4 years. So I'm a political commentator, political analyst, and in this space, I lift and bring up my hometown, Albany, Georgia. And so one of the reasons that I have the Savage Politics podcast and Savage Political Bite live show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is specifically because I'm always wanting to lift below the fold issues specifically for rural and agricultural voters who often are termed and thought to be only white. But those are very much so Black and brown people who often get dismissed from out of the political minutia conversation. So that is who I am, and that is what I do. I do work for the people.
First of all, I'm gonna go back to the website. Let's so we can see that again, because some people may have missed that. First of all, you got the perfect name for what you do, because I'm peeping the whole scenario on the website, and you really get into it. I kind of lurked it earlier today. Very contemporary, very relatable, very palatable, and you explain things very well. And so I'm glad you were able to make some time for it. So let's get into it, right? So I'm gonna go to the New York Times and lay out some details, just for the layman's standpoint. I've been listening to news talk radio all day, and it just a lot of it is going right past me, because I feel like I should know more. But you know, $600. That's the only part that I think we all are hearing. And so I'm gonna read briefly. This is from New York Times today. And they reached the hard-fought agreement on a $900 billion stimulus package. Of course, it would send immediate aid to Americans and businesses to help them cope with the economic devastation of the pandemic and fund the distribution of vaccines. We can finally report what our nation has needed to hear for a very long time. Senator Mitch McConnell, which is odd because he's been one of the ones that's been holding it up. The long and short of it, though, is substantial. $600 for every American, which if you do the math, that's about 200 million of it going to this weekly situation, for this monthly situation, this one-time payment for us, 300 for extended unemployment benefits, slight PPP funding, a lot of military spending, a lot of grants for rich people, things of that nature. Can you explain or break down what exactly is in this stimulus and why it's so bad?
Well, it is so bad because the wells of the Senate controlled by Republicans. And whenever you have a majority whose focus is really shielding corporations, this is the type of relief that is left over for the actual people that engine and power those corporations. One of the holdups in the Senate for folks to be able, for Americans really to be able to get this relief was really that Senate Republicans were holding out, adding into this 5,500 plus page document, which I just want to assure all of your listeners and readers, many of those folks within the Senate and Congress will not read that. That's a lot of material to read that would take quite a significant period of time to read. So those numbers that you just shared with your audience, we'll go through those numbers. But a 5,593 page document is what we're talking about here. And so they were able to successfully, Senate Republicans were able to add in some shielding for corporations. So that took so long. So let me start there. So what does that mean? One of the things that Mitch McConnell and his party wanted to do is to make sure that as we continue to enjoy being able to go to the grocery store and get all of the things that we enjoy, that the folks that are actually working in factories and plants to produce or to make sure the chicken has been deboned and put into packaging, that they wanted to ensure that those companies that actually those CEOs that actually run those companies would not have to be in litigation because one of those workers, who there have been hundreds, maybe even thousands of workers, but I know at my last count, hundreds of workers who have contracted and or died of COVID that work in these industries, that they would be shielded from litigation. So when you think about it, and let's just take that, the chicken plant, because I am from Southwest Georgia, rural Georgia. And
Okay.
so there are people that I know that that's where they make their living. They work 4 days a week at the chicken plant. That is how they're able to raise and take care of their family. First of all, those areas are pretty much close quartered. They are looking to get maximum bodies inside of those places. The smell is horrid. So if you could think about smelling raw chicken, raw meat all day long, those are the conditions that they work in. They have garments that they put on, but some of the garments are garments that they have to buy and bring to work to themselves. So that would be shielding and boots and things of that nature. So that's just to kind of give your audience a picture, not to say that they already didn't know what that perhaps may have looked like, but that these people go into those places working 12 to 16 hours per day. Some are paid maybe $8 or $10 an hour. And during the first part of the pandemic, when business slowed down a bit and there was scarcity of meat, those workers were incentivized to return to work, risking their lives without protective barriers, pretty much inches apart, not feet apart, inches apart, incentivized $500 extra into maybe an $8, $10 an hour paycheck. Now, think about some of those people that are going back into those positions. They have into those, plants. They have maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 people. They're in close proximity. Those folks are now going back home, putting at risk everybody that's in their homes for $8 or $10 an hour, $500 to be incentivized to return to work. And I'm laying all of that out the way that I'm laying it out because I want the audience to know that these corporations that saw fit to make sure that profit was first and people maybe were in the equation, their bodies, their labor was in the equation, but that they wanted to make sure that those people that they have supported through campaign contributions would make sure that they were protected, not the people that engine their profits. So that this is why there was such a delay in getting some meaningful legislation out with a relief that would actually help people. So we are at half of what was going to be given to what would be shelled out to American people. The $1,200 is now $600, and those folks that initially had $600 a month in jobless benefits claims, that's now $300. But just to remember that we're 220 plus days later to make sure that corporations were shielded. And so then those same workers will only be receiving about the same amount they were incentivized that could go back into a place to continue to risk their lives for profit. Um,
the shielding the corporations piece, right?
mhm,
So we all watch the movies. We know historically what politicians are put in place to do. How come we haven't gotten that portion of it through the media? How come the media has not been interested enough to kind of convey that part of it? Because that part is unfamiliar to me. That's probably on page 2000 of the 6,000 pages where I wouldn't even get that far.
right.
How come we don't know that? Because if we would know that, we would be in a position to challenge it, to ring the alarm, make some noise, and kind of offer some pushback. But now we get it's Christmas week. Take your
Mhm.
600 and be happy. How come these are things that we aren't aware of as a people?
Well, because those things are not sexy. Those things don't really, you mentioned the New York Times piece, those really don't drive headlines. And then we have to think about corporations are effectively considered people. That was in the whole Citizens United, that whole Supreme Court case that allowed corporations to be able to pour unlimited amounts of money into folks' campaigns. So there's one driver. And then the other piece around, folks that can be expecting some level of stimulus is that it is for most Americans. It's not all Americans.
Right.
Americans that have not filed income taxes because of retirement, but they do receive some SSI, some other benefits, as long as it's under the $75,000 individual threshold, those people may be able to receive that stimulus, given that they've actually filed income tax. And then also for dependent children under the age of 17, be able to receive $600 per child. Then when you talk about married people, it's under 150,000, and then that's $1,200 with also $600 for each dependent child. So when you start breaking it out, it's not everyone is going to get a stimulus. It's
Right.
most Americans, and then there are qualifying parameters that are around that. So back to the original question that you asked, it's not something that would draw people into, well, I shouldn't say that. The thinking is that they're not people that are intellectually curious enough
Got it.
to want to kind of get more information, dig down deeper. As you said, it was probably page 2000 of that
Mhm.
5,593 page document, but there's not that appetite for that. And then that kind of opens up the door to really what really kind of engines this entire country, which are corporations, um, for lack of better wording, being able to abuse people in the name of profit.
It seems like it kind of reminded me of I believe I can't remember who it was. There was a stimulus. Yeah, I don't know. It was some years ago. It might have been Bush 41, where he gave us the tax-free back to school stimulus. It came like right in August,
Yeah,
and it was enough money to really just put into school supplies and stimulate the economy for like 30 days, and it really
right.
wasn't a benefit. So this feels like a Christmas bonus.
Well, see, here's the thing,
My own
Lamont,
money.
which is pretty interesting. Yeah, and here's the interesting thing. So, for those most Americans that will receive that, we have 30 to 40 million Americans that are behind on rent payments.
Hmm.
And Pew Research is saying, and they have the numbers. They're reporting today that in those 30 to 40 million Americans that are behind on their rent per individual, it's about $6,000 per person.
Hmm.
So $600 is not, it's only a drop in the bucket when we have now moratoriums on evictions, federal moratoriums on evictions that were set to expire at the end of this month. That can has been pushed up to now July 31, 2021. That's only a month more up the road. Then we have 1 in 4 people that are facing food insecurity. Now, one of the other pieces that kind of happened interestingly is this legislation is around SNAP. That's food benefits. Those have been set to increase about 15%. But riddle me this, if you have 30 to 40 million folks that are behind on rent, if you have people that are looking for work, and jobless benefits are only $300. If you also have people that they're really making decisions about whether or not to send their children or whether they can afford the internet for their children to be able to participate online, Where, if you go and buy food, are you going to cook the food?
Yeah.
Because there are people that live in extended hotels. That is a phenomenon that has been happening since the global meltdown. That people weren't able to then continue to live in their neighborhood, continue to rent in their neighborhood. They had to go to extended living. That moratorium does not apply to folks that are living in extended living facilities. So when we look at, what has been increased, but what has been decreased, it still does not help Americans who are the engine of this country to be able to actually not only live, but be able to live and provide for their family adequately.
We're talking with political commentator Erica Savage from ericasavagewilson.com. We're talking about the stimulus and what came out today. And I want to read a couple more numbers that they threw out. Let me share this screen right quick. I thought this was interesting. So again, 600 to people that are eligible, 300 unemployment benefits down from 600 up to 11 weeks. And it would also continue and expand benefits for gig workers and freelancers. And it would extend federal payments for people whose regular benefits have expired. The measure would also provide more than $284 billion with a B for businesses and revive the Paycheck Protection Program. So last go round with the $2 trillion that they went and got off the dresser, we saw a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse flat out.
Mm-hmm.
We saw, Kanye got $4 million, didn't pay his choir. We seen Roof Chris weren't even open and they took $9 million. We saw a lot of companies and corporations and businesses that wouldn't be considered small business getting big money. We also saw a lot of people who could have been eligible, like mom and pop shops and entrepreneurs and self-sustained businesses and all that, not get it.
Right.
What's going to be different this time?
Well, with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin at the helm for the unforeseen future, probably not much. And those names that you mentioned, there were 750 documents, 750 pages of document to talk about some of the individuals that had received the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program loans. And Kanye West was one name that was mentioned, but one name I didn't hear a lot that I tweeted out, which is Tom Brady. Tom Brady has a company. He is the active quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, in the NFL for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think they have a 7-4 record. So for someone who is, for many or for some, a beloved quarterback, who's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, if you can explain to me why he and his businesses needed relief from PPP, I think that would be a question that many Americans would like to hear answered. But when you have within the PPP, small businesses consider those folks that employ under 500 people. Now, when we look at the demographics and we look at Black-owned businesses, and I'll say that because I enter into this space first as Black, as a woman, that is how I enter and show up in spaces and in conversations. And so when we're looking at Black businesses definitely saw phenomenal gains 2019, 2020, but we were the first one to see phenomenal losses. About 41% of Black businesses shuttered a couple of months after the pandemic. And why is that? Access. Access to capital has been something that has continued to really plague how we're able to move into different spaces. You have this live form platform. There's no reason that your platform should not have sponsors from everywhere, because
No reason.
we drive
reason.
we drive conversation, we drive culture. But you can match your show up against someone who perhaps looks differently from you, who's not having the reach that you have, that's barely probably having guests that are able to inform audiences, and you will kind of see the difference in the support, sponsorship, ads, things of that nature. So when we kind of look at the parameters behind how folks are able to actually get a business on, yeah, those people that were foolish and bought Lamborghinis, okay, that was stupid to do. However, there are people who don't fit a profile that have done fantastically in this pandemic in their own personal wealth, and in their own portfolios and have had access to the PPP. So that's something that I would really advise people to do. Number one, if you have a small business, which most Black-owned businesses have maybe 1 to 3 employers,
Right.
just because we don't have access to capital and able to pay staff and things of that nature, and have sometimes the mentoring to be able to springboard a business into action. That I would encourage everyone that's watching and listening to your program to share this out and encourage them to listen, rally their pool of fellow business owners to say that we are going to apply for this loan. And then we're going to let our member of Congress, that is the person that is in the House of Representatives, and your senator, to let them know you did apply for this PPP loan. You want to have a way of tracking whether or not your business, and tell your story. The active engagements of us saying to those people who are in the wells of the Senate, the folks that are in Congress, to say, listen, you work for me. You are able to earn the money that you earn, $174,000 a year, great retirement benefits, all of the things that their family would gain, because I elected you to I hired you for a job. And so I would say to audiences, if they are going to make application to that PPP, to also follow that up and let your members of Congress know that you have applied for that, and they ask them to give you a way that you would be able to track how if you would be receiving that, and then tell your story.
Okay, two things really, really quickly. I appreciate that. That was a whole word, and I'm gonna tell you why. Here's the second thing. This is a comment from our chat, our peanut gallery. Please know that the gatekeeper on the funds is the amount of paperwork that is needed to be filled out. Lazy lost a lot of money. And that, so I internalized that, because I was about to say, even before I read that comment, that I didn't do it last time because I just was hesitant. I procrastinated, and I was like, I'm a small business. I just got up in 2019, incorporated. I had, minor sales in 2020. I really didn't think the scope and magnitude of it was going to be what it was. And I was like, I probably won't even get it. So then we start seeing, as June, July, August, who and what and how much. And it was a totally different thing than I had expected. I could have and should have. And I probably, just like you saying, if not for just making the attempt, I probably would have got something to sustain myself. And so to your point, this second go round, I'm definitely doing it.
Yes.
Like without question, without hesitation.
Excellent. Yes.
At least if I can get the minimum, and if I get rejected, I'm on that phone. I'm following up, because I see how easy it was, if that's a word, appropriate word, for people that did get it, how that process took. Back to the article, and on the same page, we also saw, when people started getting the money, that there was a big deal made about our social constructs, our movie theaters, and our going out to eat, and what they call the gig economy. Never knew that there was a phrase for that, and I was in it. Bartenders and service industry personnel. So they're saying that this one expands eligibility again, this is from the New York Times, expands eligibility under the program for nonprofits, local newspapers, radio and TV broadcasters, and allocates $15 billion for performance venues, independent movie theaters, and other cultural institutions devastated by the restrictions imposed to stop the spread of the virus. Now, I think this part is tricky for me, because I understand the need to get back to some sort of normalcy, even though I personally don't believe we will ever return to quote unquote normal. So they're letting you know up front that there's a lot of money that went to trying to create your society again, so that you can go outside and play and do the things that you did before. My issue with that is a lot of people have not stopped playing. So you're fast tracking the reopening of all of these institutions and things that enhance our day-to-day quality of life, but still in the middle of the pandemic. And so I kept reading, and it said the agreement is also expected to provide billions of dollars for testing, tracing, and vaccine distribution, as well as 82 billion for colleges and schools, because we know they got hit hard. 13 billion in increased nutrition assistance, 7 billion for broadband access, and 25 billion in rental assistance. Even though, as you said, the moratorium on evictions has only been extended by a month. So these fixes, could they be considered that? Are they band-aids? Is this a real meaty bill that was agreed upon, or is all this just fluff?
It is a Band-Aid. There was definitely more money, as you talked about, the $2 trillion that's sitting on the chest of drawers. There was more money, but the Republican-led Senate cut it substantially to keep people in a position of really needing more. We have other countries that have done are doing $600 a week until they're able to open up their economy safely and effectively. So what we're seeing again here, as you called out those numbers, the $82 billion for colleges, universities, we know that unfortunately HBCUs took quite a hit because particularly if those schools did not already offer online programming and really not having the financial support as we see in some of the PWIs. And, just to make sure I'm not throwing out acronyms that people may be unfamiliar with, and understanding you have an intelligent audience, predominantly white institutions. So that they thrive, and a lot of that is off of the donor community and off of their strength of their alumni community. That those strengths are not afforded to HBCUs. We just saw here recently in the state of Maryland, the next door neighbor to the state of Maryland, where Governor Hogan again did not want to fully make sure that HBCUs were funded at the same level as neighboring PWIs are. So negotiating on that number. So yeah, per usual, absolutely. So this is kind of what we've seen at local and state levels. We've just seen it really profiled here on a federal level. So that $82 billion going back to that for some institutions that really are struggling since they don't have students on campus and they're not able to, house and feed those students. Those are definitely something that's at the forefront. There's also $10 billion in there for childcare. That is another industry that Black, brown people not only depend on, but usually stand up in our communities. And so those people that do have work or are looking for work and they still do need childcare, and there is that neighborhood childcare facility, or there is a childcare facility that's Black people of color led, that those folks need money too, because the people who have to work need to have a place that they're able to take their children. And those industries, those businesses rather, have really been suffering. So just taking back to all of the numbers that you said, this is not a lot. And so there is going to be really some work that is to be done on what I'd love to say is an engaged citizenry, to let the people that you hired know that it's not enough. Now, understanding that the folks that are actually responsible for this have led in the Senate, which is why the efforts in Georgia are so important. However, as a person who has hired people to represent you both in the House of Representatives and Congress, it's on us to let them know that I see you and this is not enough. And so again, that's why I said that for all of the individuals, even though the tenants have been expanded a bit for more people to be able to get inside of this paycheck protection program, that I still encourage everybody to not only apply, but encourage a group of people to apply. And then those same group of y'all say, okay, now tell me, who is it that works for you that's in the House of Representatives? Who is it that works for you that is in the Senate? We are going to do an email, somebody do a template. We all put our names on it. And in that, we're going to talk about we applied. This is the date that we applied. This is the outcome that we're expecting. And here's our testimony. In our district, my neighborhood, my people worked for you. They voted for you. These are the outcomes that I expected. That to me, coupled with understanding that the folks in power that should have made this work several months ago that we are saying as an engaged citizenry, I have eyes on you, and this is not enough. So even if we don't qualify to receive those payments, we're speaking for folks that are qualified to speak, excuse me, that to receive these payments to say, I see you, this is not enough, something needs to be done now.
Oh, you're talking about the civic engagement that we exercised all summer. You're talking about keeping it going. Is that what you're
Have
saying?
to. We have
Oh,
to. Yeah, we
well,
have
'cause I thought it
to.
was over after November 12th. Oh, you
No.
wanted to keep
Whoa.
going.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what the onus is. That's what really kind of got us to this place. And I've heard people say, do you think that, this particular, as I have properly named them, regime, that this has been a blessing, that this has gotten people civically engaged in a much different way. And to that, I rebuff and I say no, because I don't believe that the 315,000 plus people, all of those funerals that happened over Facebook Live, that happened over FaceTime, I don't believe that those should have happened, and all the people that died as a result of state violence. I don't think that having this level of violence waged against a community of people was necessary to wake us up.
mm,
What I do believe is necessary is that we take the momentum that has been built over this time, regrettably, and understand that we have to make demands on the people that we hire. So no, the 900 billion wasn't enough. Was it? Was it? It is in fact because we have a Republican-led Senate where the buck stops there. But it's on us to be engaged enough to know that whomever that works in the Senate that's not working for me doesn't work. And so whatever it is that I need to do to make sure if their time is up in the next 2 years or 2 years after that or 2 years after that, because there's a class one, class two, class three group of Senate members, that if what they're doing is not working for me, even if it's not harming me, if it's harming folks in my right and my left or people in my family, I'm going to make sure that I keep the motivation that I saw participated in 2020 and move that forward so that I'll be able to fire them in 2 years, 2 years after that, or 2 years after that.
I like it. Savage Politics is what she's all about. You can find her at ericasavagepolitics.com. I think I said that incorrectly before. Erica Savage
The audio
Politics.
went out again.
Oh, man, maybe that's what it was. Can you hear me? Can you hear me
Okay, I
now?
can hear you now. Yes,
Oh,
sir. Yes,
yeah, I
sir.
just was sharing my screen or whatever and went to your website, ericasavagepolitics.com. I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us and educating us and dropping some jewels on us, and hope to have you back another time.
I'd love to. Thank you so much, Mr. King. And I would just say for everybody, I have a newsletter that comes out every Friday. If you go to ericasavagepolitics.com, you can be on part to join that. And then also follow me. I saw it in the comments at one Erica Savage on Twitter. And you all, please support this brother. Please support Black media. Support people that it takes a lot of work to do what our brother Lamont is doing. It's not something that you say, okay, well, I'm going to get up at 4 o'clock and prepare for this. He's preparing for this show 7 days a week to have a platform to deliver news, updates to all of you all. I would encourage you all, whatever ways that you can support him, share. If he has a way that you can pay, please do that. Support Black voices, support Black media, support Black businesses.
Let me put this on the screen real quick. Oh, look at that. What a coincidence. There's my cash app. I appreciate you and a whole word, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right. Thank you. You as well. Take care,
All right.
everyone. Happy holidays.
I don't care if it is a closet. You still looking mad official.